Stream is
We are
live.
Well,
Are we live?
quick, put up the thing, dude.
MVP.
Hits one in the air, left center field, back it goes. Harper, the swing of his life.
You never get ahead of yourself. As Eric's down the field,
I know Randy's do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that wrench do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 68. Apologize for the late start tonight. Some technical difficulties on our end, but we have a full house tonight. Al Ryan in the top left, Chris Guest down at the bottom of the screen. Gentlemen, what a difference a week makes.
Awful. I don't want to be here right now.
No, I really don't either. Let's try to go under an hour tonight for this one.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of negative episodes and a lot of disappointment over the past year and a half since we've been doing this pod, but I don't know if we'll have any more of a pessimistic episode as we do tonight. I was going to dedicate tonight's episode to that Yarmer Yager, but screw it. We don't have to dedicate it to anybody. It's just going to be one of them nights, boys, as the Phillies. I can't even explain what we dealt with over the rest of this series compared to where we were this time last week with a 2-0 series lead. To see how it ended up, I'm excited. I'm not excited. I am interested to jump into it and hear your guys' views. But before we do, Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about Alex's Pizza?
Yeah, so Alex's Pizza on 400 Levington Avenue and nearby beautiful Roxborough are the lead sponsors for tonight's first segment. They are offering $12.99 upside down pizzas, and the Rook has $6 citywides, $8 Red October shots, and dollar dogs on Phillies game days, which we aren't going to have anymore right now. But what we do have going forward, Alex, is we do starting on Friday, spider web pies and ghost pies. It is Halloween season, so especially on the weekend, you have a family, you want to have some nice little fun treats for dinner. You don't feel like cooking. Pick up a nice little ghost pie for the family, for the kiddos, and enjoy it. Special is going to run from this coming Friday, the 27th, until Halloween night on Tuesday, $18 pies. So go down to Alex's, pick up a pie, and I may pick one up and just throw it in Seltzer's face for what he tweeted at us. I'm sorry, what he texted at us last night. But we'll talk about that shortly. But Alex's Pizza, go pick up your pie today.
And I'll tell you what, if you're going to throw any pie in my face, it might as well be in Alex's. So it'll taste delicious. Best pie in the city.
Nice and hot,
good ad lib there. I mentioned some technical difficulties. I thought the ticker was updated with the Halloween stuff, but great ad lib there for you there. But all right, let's jump into it. I'm sure we have a lot of we have already have Mr. Diversa in the chat. Welcome to the Phillies funeral. Please sign the guest book. Listen,
I get arsenic on my pie. Yes, you can. Anywhere but Alex's.
I want to do something that's probably going to be a little bit unpopular before we get into the funeral session. Listen, let's at least tip our caps to the Arizona Diamondbacks.
You know what? You're right.
Right. You're down 2-0 in this series. They have to beat the Phillies 4 out of 5, including 2 in Citizens Bank Park. Though Torey Lovello managed a hell of a series to keep those guys in it. Marte and Moreno at the plate were fantastic. And the back end of that bullpen was lights out. Thompson, Ginkel, and Sewald, we didn't touch them the entire series. And the hats off to them because they did their job. And what they did was, a lot of it was some Phillies collapse, but they also earned it.
From our end, it was the bats didn't hit, but from the Diamondbacks' perspective, it's the pitchers were lights out. So you're absolutely right.
And the one X factor, I thought we talked X factors last week. I think the X factor in the series was Brandon Pfaadt. Like they go into that series into Arizona down 2-0 with a rookie on the mound. and he threw a hell of a game in Game 3, and then he did his job last night in Citizens Bank Park as a rookie with a over 5 ERA. So, like, hats off to that guy because he was unbelievable. He was their X factor.
Well, we said before, he's a prospect for an organization, and he was a little bit of a late bloomer this year, but he bloomed at the right time, the perfect time for them. The Phillies could not see him. They just couldn't.
No.
And his slider was really good. Like, he had good movement on it. But so I just wanted to, like, again, a lot of this was Phillies collapse, but Arizona really did a nice job. And they came up with clutch hits. And we're going to talk about big game players. As bad as Corbin Carroll was that entire series, he stepped up big time last night.
Yes, he did. And him and Gabriel Moreno killed us that entire series.
Marte was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did Marte get MVP? I turned it off right after the game was over.
I turned it off too. I don't want to know. I don't ever want to know who won MVP of that series. I don't want to know who wins the World Series. I don't want to know. It's out. I'm done.
Well, and on a side note, and this isn't just me being a hater, that World Series matchup's brutal.
Oh, MLB hates
baseball's got to be brutal. They got to be pissed at the Diamondbacks. Those two fan bases are about as big as I don't know what, but they're small. Very small. Those two teams do not have a lot of fans outside of Arizona and Texas.
Yeah, the ratings are going to be pretty rough for that series. That's for sure.
DeVersa said Marte did get MVP.
He deserved it.
He did.
He is the new Cody Ross. He has replaced Cody Ross, at least for me.
I think you could have made it. I think you could have made an argument for Fott.
I think if Marte didn't hit the way he did, I thought Fott definitely would have had an argument.
Yeah. No, listen, they picked the right guy, but I just think that Fott was right there.
And I think, too, that this season, and we're going to get into it in a second, but this season and this playoff run as a whole, especially even this series, it was like when you have to go take a deuce and you have the pressure and you're waiting and you're like, oh, my God, I got to figure out where to, like, drop this off at. And you're really, like, getting tense about it. And then after you finally go, you're like, all right, at least I'm back to normal. I'm good. I can take a breath, exhale. I made it. I'm okay. And that's how I feel about this series. This whole time we've been really tense. Like, are we going to blow this? Are we going to blow this? And we finally blew it. And now we can go back to our regular lives.
I disagree. I don't think we were tense. I think that this was the humbling moment for this generation's Philadelphia sports fans because we've been on a ride, guys. We've been on a run ever since the first Super Bowl, the Nick Foles Super Bowl, where it's almost been like we forgot that we're like underdogs, lovable losers. I think somewhere along the way, the fans, we got used to being the favorite and kind of dialing into that role. And I think this team did also. This team and this city doesn't know how to be the favorite. They're more comfortable in that underdog role. You saw it before when we were going to Arizona and Garrett Stubbs opened his mouth about running into the pool to celebrate. That's uncharacteristic of this team.
I'm glad you brought that up, Al, because ever since that happened, I didn't have a good feeling in my stomach. We just had the same exact thing that happened on the opposite end with old boy from the Braves.
Yeah,
Arcia. Yeah. And now we just did it to ourselves, and it paid off. It did the same exact thing.
And now that
karma on us.
That quote's going to live in infamy now. And I hope DJ Stubbs got plenty of pay from Spotify for playing all those songs all the time because he might be out of here after that.
I was going to say this. You got to get clipped for that?
Might have to go.
He might have to get clipped.
Take him out back to Versa.
Yeah,
give him some arsenic pie.
He might have to. That might be a terminal offense.
Yeah. But gentlemen, Stubbs was not the only one to blame in this series. So I want to go to you guys. There's obviously a ton of lists, but if you had to list your number one culprit for the reason we lost this series, who are you picking? Let's go to Chris first.
Craig Kimbrell. No questions asked. He blew 2 games.
Al?
This is so easy. It's Rob Thompson.
Ooh.
Rob Thompson is the one who put in Craig Kimbrell, knowing that he was gassed, putting him in after game 3 when he blows the lead, then puts him back in for game 4 when we've seen it all season long, and especially in the second half of the season, where when you put Craig Kimbrell in on a back-to-back, the second day, he sucks. And you put him in that crucial situation, Rob Thompson doesn't change the lineup around. He keeps guys in their spots because they're comfortable and because he's a player's coach and all this and that. But at some point, you have to put on your manager's cap. And that if it's not game 7 in the NLCS, when is it going to be? He doesn't bench Johan Rojas, who hits under 100 for the series, looks absolutely lost at the plate. It's not like Christian Pache is that big of an upgrade at the plate, but he's better. And are you really getting that much of a drop off in defense when you slide Marsh over to center and throw Pache in left? I don't think you are. I think it makes up for the bat when we needed offense. We needed offense, and he sat on his hands.
But I'll say this, Al, about the thing with Rojas. I disagree only because was he good at the plate? No, he was terrible. He struggled to bunt a couple times and all kind of things. He was terrible at the plate. Had a lot of terrible at bats. But you can. With that lineup and that payroll we have, you should be able to get away with him batting ninth, batting 050 or whatever it was, and still get away with it. We had two key bats in Turner and Castellanos who were MIA that series after it left Philly the first time. They were ghosts. And
Harper sucked too the last 4 games of the series.
But at least he's hitting the ball, and it's getting to the point where like he's just missing getting a hit. These other guys are not even close to hits. Castellanos looked like he was me out there going up the bat.
Yeah, listen, and I know we're going to talk about it, but Castellanos whiffing, 3 straight whiffs on the first and third, and then they walk, I think, Marsh, and then Rojas comes up. Like that's a dead. You just knew, you saw it coming from a mile away, even before the Nicky bats at bat. You knew that's how it was going to play out. That's a problem. You got to move.
Yeah, I don't really.
Trey Turner was swinging the bat just as bad as Castellanos.
Nobody. Trey Turner was swinging bad. Nobody was swinging as bad as Castellanos.
Those last 3 games, he was.
I'm very confident that Nick Castellanos was determining whether or not he was going to swing before the pitch was thrown.
100%.
He said, "I'm swinging. I'm not swinging."
100%.
That's what there's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with Kimbrel because that was Chris's guy. I have the notes here. In Game 3, he comes in a 1-1 game in the bottom of the 9th. He goes walk, then a stolen base where the guy may have been halfway to second base by the time Kimbrel threw the ball. Single, fielder's choice where they throw the guy out at the plate on a great play. Walk, single. That's how the game ended in Game 3. And then Game 4, he obviously comes in a 5-2 game in the 8th. He goes double, fly out, home run, out, single, hit by pitch. And then he's pulled from the game. I'm on the same boat as Chris. I'm going Craig Kimbrel as my number 1 guy to blame in this series. Thompson, to me,
he's right there though. Thompson, he's right there.
I thought Thompson managed a horrible Game 4. Outside of that, I didn't think he did that bad of a job because it's the player's job to perform. And again, I think it's very easy for everyone to sit here and say, "Oh, he should have moved Bohm from the 4-hole." That was the biggest complaint that a lot of people had because Bohm wasn't performing. Who are you putting in the 4-hole?
Real Muto.
DT.
Okay, he didn't hit either. He hit 235 over the last 5 games of the series. So JT's the answer, but he wasn't going to change much either. How many times did JT come up in a big spot and hit into a double play?
But
not really that much. Not really in this series.
Why aren't you?
No, he did do it a couple. He struck out with a guy on third, 1 out.
He did. He swung a bad pitch
that would have hit a left-handed batter.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're not shaking things up, though. Bohm is obviously putting too much pressure on himself in that spot. You saw it come to a head last night when
he looked out matched
throwing bats in the dugout.
He hit the homer last night. He was one of the only guys.
I'm saying before that.
I know he didn't have a great series.
For 6 games, he looked outmatched at the plate.
There's someone else that looked outmatched, and it's Thompson's fault for putting him in. And I hate to throw a 22-year-old kid under the bus.
Yep,
Ryan Kirkering. You throw him in there, and he blows a save in Game 5, and you throw him right back out there in Game 6, and he's stuck.
Well,
I thought the biggest mistake in the series was in Game 3. The Phillies take a 1-0 lead in the top of the 7th. They throw a wild pitch, and Bryce scores. And instead of going to Dominguez in the 8th inning, he goes to Kirkering. And Kirkering gave the lead up within 3 batters.
Yep.
And I don't understand the way Dominguez has thrown the ball, why he went to Dominguez instead of Kirkering.
Well, also, why did Kirkering get to in those back-to-back situations when he hasn't had it all year?
Well, they had no pitching. That was the other thing. Game 4, I said I thought Thompson did a bad job. And part of that was he took Sanchez out of the game too early and put Hoffman in way too early. Hoffman was the only.
He tried to do it last night too. He had him in the 3rd inning.
He had Wheeler in his back pocket that he was going to use. Outside, like maybe Dominguez, they had no other right-handed pitcher that was worth a damn.
Yeah,
no, they didn't.
We got to make this segment fast. You ain't gonna have my blood pressure going up tonight.
Just some other stats offensively. Nick Castellanos 1 for 24 with 11 strikeouts. 0 for his last 23 at the plate. Trey Turner 5 for 25. Bryce Harper 5 for 23. That's the entire series, and it got worse as it went on. A couple of key situations that I thought again, these are just moments from the series I have written down. Game 4, we come out. Turner gets a hit in the first inning, then gets picked off at first base early in the game. The next half inning, Christopher Sanchez forgets how many outs there are, and that cost them a run. And then there's a pass ball by JT later that inning. I didn't think in game 4 they came out with any sort of urgency to play. Last night, Al mentioned this, bases loaded, 1 out. Castellanos strikes out, which was, you saw it coming a mile away. They walk Marsh. Do they hit for Rojas in that spot? You think they should have pinch hit in that spot?
Yeah, pull a fan out of the stands. Do anything. You know what's going to happen with Rojas up there.
I think the issue is, and you touched on this, Al, is like they had nobody on the bench that could hit. Like, you were going to go to Cave in that spot if you pinched hit. Well, Cave is no guarantee to get a hit.
No, not at all. But what I will say is, it's ironic. I was thinking about this last night. You had mentioned about the Dombrowski thing, which I still don't agree with you with that. But I will say, to your point, Tommy Pham was a guy that was discussed allegedly with the Phillies at the trade deadline. They didn't pull the trigger on him. Arizona got him, and he ended up being a big knife in our side in this series with that home run that he had, a couple plays in the field. He was a little bit of a thorn, not the main thorn, but he was still a thorn.
And he was exactly what we would have needed.
What about they picked up Sewald and Thompson? Those 2 guys at the back end of the bullpen. You don't think we could have used those guys?
Are these guys going to win the World's? Like, this is the thing that's frustrating to me is it's like we're from Philly. We're used to losing, right? But the frustrating thing is when we lose to teams that are clearly inferior, and we find ways to just lose to inferior teams throughout the span of time across the board, not just the Phillies, all of these teams. Like, what other place finds a way to lose to the 6th seed when you have games 6 and 7 in your pocket at home? And that team has 2 guys. They have Corbin and they have Marte that were going in that series. And really, in general, they don't really have – I mean, Moreno's a budding guy. But other than that, they don't really have a lot of guys that will scare you. You can even go to the Super Bowl blowing the 10-point lead. You can go to hell, you can even talk about the friggin' Union who had a lead in the MLS Cup and then ended up playing with one-man advantage and gave up 2 goals.
That was bad.
And lost in a shootout in the MLS. Like, things that don't normally happen to places and to teams find its way to happening to our teams. And it's really strange.
Diversa mentioned Lourdes Gurriel. Pavin Smith, also a dude that all of a sudden became a guy that I will hate forever. But Chris, to your point, and I think maybe we can transition into this part of the conversation, was this the most devastating loss in Philadelphia postseason? At least, I won't say history, but at least in our history, in our lifetime, in the 30+ years that we've been watching sports.
No, I don't think it's close. I think it's more just like it's frustrating, but it's disappointing, but it's more like the Sixers Hawks was backbreaking to me. The Sixers Raptors was like suicide watch for me. Sixers Celtics is like we can't get over the hump against that specific team. That's maddening to me. Eagles Bucks shutting down the vet, having Rondé Barber still running down the street is sickening. This was just like, are we for real with this? Like, is this really like is this same old Philly? Like, this is stupid. But it wasn't like up to me with the level of those games, in my opinion.
You didn't mention what I have as the biggest disappointing loss, and to me it was the 2011 Phillies.
No,
when that was because that era of baseball,
they were the best team they were the best team in the league that year.
They were the best team in the league. That era of baseball was so good, and that was the end, and you knew it was the end. Howard tears his Achilles.
Well, let's say
symbolism at the end.
That Shakespearean. The Shakespearean ending of Howard tearing his Achilles and now be the end of the run.
And I think if you go back and watch that series, it probably felt a lot like this series. I remember the Phillies just not being able to generate any offense. And I think the thing that makes, again, playoff losses like this one, what makes them so hard is baseball is such a slow burn. And you are just watching these guys come to the plate and you're saying to yourself, he's not going to get a hit. He's not going to get a hit. He's not going to get a hit. And it's not like basketball or football where it all happens pretty quickly and it's still painful. Baseball is just that slow burn. And as you watch the series develop, you just lost confidence in almost everybody as they came to the plate.
And in the 7th inning, as a Phillies fan, you knew it was over. You knew they weren't good. You knew the 8th and 9th, it was over. We had everybody else that was batting, you knew wasn't going to get on base. But Seltzer, I disagree with you for one fact with the 2011 team. Number one, you felt that team getting really old right before your eyes. Even with all the pitching they had, Chase Utley's knee was done. Ryan Howard's power was dwindling. And the bigger thing is they won the World Series just 3 years prior. So they had one under their belt. To me, that's what made 2011 not as devastating as this. I think this was the most devastating loss.
Really?
We were up 2-0. We were up 2-0 with a lead in the 7th inning of Game 3. And then we're up 2-1 with a lead in the 8th inning of Game 4. And then we're up 3-2 with 2 games left at home with the best postseason home record in baseball history. It was so hard for Arizona to do what they had to do to win that series, to win 4 or 5. Whereas if you tell me the Eagles and the Bucks, they play that game 100 times, the Bucks were a talented-ass team. They probably win that game 20 times, 30 times.
No.
You don't think so?
That game was here for a reason.
You think they played this series out after a 2-0 Philly lead, Arizona's going to win this series 20 times? They're not. They're going to win it maybe 5.
No. But I thought you said the Bucks and you said Tampa and the Eagles. I thought you said.
No, I did. I'm saying that the Bucks are going to beat the Eagles more in that bubble than Arizona is going to beat the Phillies after being down 2-0.
Yeah, it's one game versus
That's part of my point. Yeah. That's part of why this is more devastating to me, because this win was wrapped up. We were clearly the superior team. That we had to win 2 games out of 5. That made it, and we had World Series aspirations. We just beat the best offensive in all time. Like, I don't know, man. Just a lot.
I can't.
Being the Phillies fan.
Diversion makes a good point in the chat. It even felt last night like even if they won that game, they were just going to make us frustrated in the next series anyway because they were so dead the bats, and it didn't feel like they have enough to beat the Rangers even if they got there. I know it would have been better to get there, but dude, if I had to watch 5 to 6 more games of that offense that I watched last night, that would have just been brutal.
Well, that's why I said about the BM metaphor I said when we first started the show, because now you don't have to worry about it. You're good. You've gotten cleansed.
Ugh, not yet. I'm not cleansed yet.
But I will say that the Kawhi shot for me is still in my dreams or my nightmares, I should say. I still think of that. Now, the Phillies are like the 3rd on my Philly sports pantheon of, my order. So maybe that's also part of it for me. I'm always Eagles and Sixers first. But was it rough? Absolutely. But to me, like, it wasn't an altering fandom type series. Like, I had to look myself in the mirror and debate if I wanted to go to another Sixers game again after 2019 and 2021. I gave my Ben Simmons jersey to the Goodwill that night when I got home. I was done.
Chris, I think the difference is depending on the word that we're using. It to me, the Kawhi loss was heartbreaking. If we want to use that word, the disappointment is more in regards to the play, because in the Sixers game against the Raptors, that game came down to the wire. They played well. It didn't feel like they gave it away. Those 2 teams that were really evenly matched, and the series comes down to one shot against a generational type player in Kawhi Leonard, and they lose it. It broke my heart.
I think it's because I think that team would have won the championship.
It's heartbreaking.
That's why for me it's harder. The Phillies, like you said, we don't know.
But wouldn't you say that's more heartbreaking versus disappointing? Like this is disappointing because of the way they crumbled. Heartbreaking is a different feeling because they were there. It was just they lost the series. It wasn't like they gave it away.
I think I kind of looked at them synonymously, those terms, when we started to break this down. That's why I said what I said. But the more you talk about it, as far as just disappointment, it's definitely up there. I mean, we had a series lead twice. We've had leads in the game within that series multiple times. And to have a guy that's like Kimbrel, who was toast, just throw it away. And then he has that
all year. I told you all year he was going to fucking throw it.
Stupid look on his face, like, man, I can't believe they hit my. I'm like, bro, everybody's hitting it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that was fun. And then on top of that, I'm big on self-reflection. I thought about the previous shows we've had. I thought about last week's show we had, where we were all so sure that this was going to be a 4-game series, maybe a 5-game series tops. I thought about when I said how Kimbrel would be good enough to hold the babies. I'd be in jail if I did that right now, because they'd be gone. He just threw them in the river somewhere.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm with you guys on Kimbrel, but I can't put him ahead of the bats.
I don't
He
know.
lost 2 games directly himself.
Yeah,
But
he had a 5. He had a 5. Forget
Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos affect by not getting any effing hits.
Yeah, but even with that, they would have won if he just did his job.
They would have
I
won
want
game
that.
3 if any of the bats did their job.
So
now they
we
put
would-
him in.
if we
they
had
put
to
him in
come
game
back every
4
game,
with a
that's one thing.
3-run lead in the 8th inning.
Yeah,
Dude, this is like the James Harden thing. Like, okay, he blew game 4, but like, didn't
And
Bryce
3.
Harper really blow
And
game
3.
7?
And 3.
And 3. Okay, so didn't Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos blow game 6 and 7? 3 runs in 2 friggin' games in a row?
You
Bryce
can't
Harper had
directly
multiple
put it on one of those.
to make
That
plays.
played a huge role, but you can't directly put it on one of those guys like you can put it on Craig Kimbrel.
I can't. Bryce he had the chance. He had the shot for Bedlam at the bank too. And he watched a meatball.
Bryce hit the ball, hit 2 seeds last night, and they were just
I was going to say, he hit the ball hard. The guys made a play. Kimbrel literally just gave up the games by himself, single-handedly, just coughed up the games.
Who put him in?
Thompson.
Well, I'm not.
He's the closer all year.
I'm not
You
disagreeing.
put him in a spot that wasn't a closing spot.
Thompson was that. I would not argue or fight you on that point because I can understand where you're coming from.
He should know the dude is gassed more than anyone on that team. Him and the pitching coach.
Yeah, no, you're right on that. All I'm saying is when it comes to Kimbrel versus the lineup, if Kimbrel just does his, even in one of those games, we win the series, and it doesn't matter about what the bats did.
I can say the same
done
thing
enough to already win.
And Nick Castellanos and Trey Turner, I can say the same thing if they do their job for one game instead of going for 0 for 4 with a strikeout, 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. It's the same thing.
But they're having to fight back. Kimbrel already had a lead. They're having to fight back by getting the hits. It's a difference.
We had a lead in game 7.
No. I'm saying in game 6, for instance, that game was a game where we were down the whole time. So and they pitched well against us. To blame the lineup, in my opinion, isn't fair because they had to have fought back to get on top. Kimbrel had 2 situations where we had a lead with him on the mound, and he's a guy that's got over 400 saves in his career. He's going to be a Hall of Fame pitcher, and all you got to do is get 3 outs.
Yes,
and he couldn't do it. He could barely get 1 out.
In game 7, they were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Is that Craig Kimball's fault? We could have stepped in their friggin' throats, and we decided not to. 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 4.
I mean, here's the problem. Here's the adjustment. When I went back and watched the highlights, here's the adjustment Arizona made, which was plain and simple, and I saw it on Twitter today as well for stats. Arizona just stopped throwing strikes, and we just chased and chased and chased and chased, and there was no reason. They just threw it on the outside corner, and a couple guys took walks, but there was not enough patience throughout the lineup to take enough walks, and they swung at bad pitches repeatedly, and that's why we lost. We weren't swinging at strikes.
Yeah, all right.
And their relievers, every time their back end relievers came in, it was ahead in the count. Every time our relievers were in the game, we were behind in the count. Like it was like clockwork.
Let me just say, and I know we're not going to go into this right now, but I just want to say, I want to be the first one to say, Castellanos, McAble, Johan Rojas for Mike Trout. That's where I'm at right now because we need another big time bat. Castellanos isn't going to get it done. He's just not. He had a really good run. He had a hot run, but for every hot run he has 2 instances where he's just ghost. And I'm just we can't deal with that inconsistency.
I'd rather have Liam Castellanos than Nick Castellanos at this point. And what else are we giving in that deal, guest? There's no way that's all they would take.
Well, Rojas is at this point is an MLB player. He's probably going to be a multiple-time Gold Glove center fielder.
He just got
Castellanos has a pedigree of being in this league, and McAble is a top pitching prospect, one of the top pitching prospects we have. What do you mean?
I want to, Chris. You mentioned we can talk about the offseason some other time, but you mentioned a few weeks ago when we did the babysitting episode, how much do we trust them? And I figured out what Nick Castellanos was because you mentioned him in that trade. He's the drunk uncle that comes over. And sometimes he's sober and you can give him to the baby, right? In the Atlanta series, everything was good and he could hold the baby and does great. And then sometimes he comes in drunk and you can't even put him anywhere near the baby. You got to hide the baby. And he was drunk that entire series, that Arizona series. There's no way you could trust him.
Well,
in that
you know what? I'd even go a step further, Seltzer. I'd say he's like the divorced, like single dad, where you don't know if he like the kid goes to the corner waiting for dad to pick him up, and he just doesn't show up. He's not there, and then you come back to the house crying. Why doesn't dad want to spend time with me? That's how I feel about it. This guy was always there when we needed him in the last series and in the first part of this series, and we thought like, all right, all year, Castellanos got over the hump. He got over the hump. He loves us. He's a perfect fit. He's a Philly guy. And then when we needed him and we went to that corner, that car never turned the corner. We never saw him.
I have two more names that we haven't spoken of. I want to talk about one negative, one positively.
Dream on this segment.
Free pass that I haven't heard anything for Aaron Nola. Came into game 6.
No.
He pitched well in game 2, but there was Meatball Nola came out in that second inning.
One inning, and then he
shut
him back down.
That inning gave Arizona the momentum in Citizens Bank Park.
Now that
inning gave Arizona the belief that they could do this.
But that I would ride with Al on that one. That one is we need to in that instance 3 runs by a starting pitcher over 6 innings. You should be able to
4.
No, because he
gave up another one. He got knocked out.
4 to 3rd.
Oh no, that was the 4th run was when he was already on base. That runner, right?
Yeah, Lorenzen gave up the hit.
Yeah. So I'm not. Nola pitched really well for us in the postseason. I'm not. There's no way. That's just recency bias. There's no way I'm going to ride with you on that.
Yeah, I was fine with Nola, and in that game, once again, 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Nobody at the top of the order got a hit.
Yeah, that one I agree with that one.
It was 4 runs. It was 4 runs in 4 1/3. It wasn't 4 runs in 6 innings.
Well, even still, though, the games even before that where he was lights out and got us in a position to win. Like, I can't.
He's way down on the list, but he did not have a good start in game 6. That's a fact.
Well, we'll talk about the offseason stuff another time, but he's going to be a factor this year.
Shout out Zach Wheeler, a stud.
Yeah.
Shout out Zach Wheeler. Like
I've been preaching it forever, man, that he was just as important of a signing as Bryce Harper. And I know that he's not, but he kind of is.
Well, and also give our flowers to Jeff Hoffman.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff Hoffman's the closer on his team next year.
I don't know about that, but I think that he was one of the few guys this year that from start to finish was excellent.
Who's available? Because they might make a move.
Well, as far as free agency, Noel's clearly the best pitcher on the market.
He's talking about closers.
Oh, closer wise, I don't know. I was thinking of having Kirkering as a development prospect as a closer. Now, I don't know where his confidence is at this point.
They might have ruined him. I talked about this before. They might have ruined that kid.
Yeah, I don't know. Possibly. I mean, and the one thing too is he kept throwing that like slider sweeper pitch, which was. I mean, he throws it at an elite level, but he just wasn't throwing it in those last 2 appearances. They read it and they figured it out. But he has gas too, and I'm like, you throw 98, throw in some more heaters. But that makes that sweeper even more effective.
I don't think he's in a position where he's shaking JT off as a rookie. JT's calling those pitches.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I think you're probably right on that.
He also is throwing 98 with no movement.
Yeah, his fastball's flat. It's flat, but it's 98.
Right, 98's 98. I mean,
got it.
But all the hitters say it. They'd rather see 98 with no movement than 92 with movement.
Yeah, but I'm saying 98. If you can locate 98, I'm not saying the middle of the plate.
He wasn't locating.
I mean, Paul Sewald's throwing 92 on the black, and it's pretty flat. It's just
it kept his Sewald's fastball kept rising up though. He had like a kind of little bit of a riser. He had. It's obvious. It has to be something because he has no stuff. So the ball must be moving.
How old is Sewald though?
35.
Yeah, he's been around the block. I mean,
definitely.
Yeah. As DeVersa said, Orion was he said that he was pissing down his leg when he got put in. I agree. You could see it. His whole demeanor was different.
Yeah, didn't see any pictures of his pops either.
No,
it's weird because he pitched against when he went against the Braves and those were better teams, and he looked more confident. And then we get in this spot where not just him, but even the guys at the plate. To your point, Al. They looked like they were squeezing, like they had blisters on their hands from how tight they were squeezing those bats. Like they clearly visibly looked like they were feeling pressure in the middle of the. As soon as Arizona took that lead last night, we looked like we had the weight of the world on our shoulders when we went to the plate.
Yeah.
Everybody.
That's what I said to open the segment. I said the fans in Philadelphia, and I think the teams in Philadelphia don't know how to act when they're not the underdog. They pressure bust pipes, and we saw it happen. There was no pressure to beat the Braves. We didn't have to beat the Braves. The Braves had to beat us, but we had to beat the Diamondbacks. You get what I'm saying? Who was it that always used to say that back in the day in the WWF matches? He doesn't have to beat the champ. The champ has to beat him. That's what it's like.
No, you're
Now,
right.
I mentioned on the preview pod, and I want to discuss this a little bit, that I wasn't that keen about having home field advantage in the series. And my thought process behind it was I'd rather have Wheeler and Nola go on the road, do their thing, and then bring the shittier pitchers, game 3 and game 4, into Citizens Bank Park, where they have to deal with the crowd and that sort of thing. So again, you're talking about fat, you're talking about that bullpen game in our yard instead of in Arizona. And I wonder if that changes things.
I understand what you said at the time. I still disagree, though. Fott showed that it didn't matter where he was pitching. He could have been pitching on the moon, and he was.
They couldn't see him. Anywhere.
He built that confidence in Arizona before he pitched the other night.
No, but come on. This kid's been pitching well before we even saw him.
No doubt. But I don't know if he pitches as well as he did yesterday if he didn't have that game 3 to go back on. If his first start is in Citizens Bank Park, I don't know for sure that it's the same as it was last night. And I'll give him credit; he had great stuff. But
you play to have those games at home, man. I mean, to me, that's, and I'm not calling you this. I'm just saying in general. I think that's a loser mentality to say that you would rather be on the road for 4 of the 7 just because of what you're saying and because of the format. Like, to me, like, if you're the favorite, you should be able to win a game on the road, regardless.
You should be able to win one game out of 2 home games.
And then, right. Well, first you should be able to win a game on the road, and then you should definitely be at least able to win one game at home to close out a series. Having game 6 and game 7 is such an advantage in a 7-game series. Like, you'd have to do a deep dive and to figure out how many series go 6 and 7 games, first of all. And then I'm sure that number will be pretty high. Once you see that, you see the clear advantage of what it is to have those 6 and 7 in your building.
I mean, you can say that, but I watched the Phillies lose 6 and 7 at home, and I just watched the Astros lose 6 and 7 at home.
Yeah, in baseball, game 7s, home and away, it's like 51-49 split.
Well, that goes to another argument too, though, because there's a lot of people out there that are complaining, not just Philly people in general, that the playoffs format for baseball is flawed.
Yeah, but that's about the first series. That's not about the second.
It's actually about the first 2 series.
How though? Like the argument is that they're not in a rhythm, or they're not at that point. They've already played the first series.
Because you could argue that, and people have argued that you see a true reflection of the actual best team in a 7-game series versus a 5 or a 3. Definitely not a 3,
right?
But even more than a 5. That's why the NBA.
I'm sorry. When I say the second series, I'm talking about the NLCS. By that point,
that's not the second series anymore.
Right, I know. I always discount the wild card.
Don't let the Braves fans get in your head with this rap.
No, I've seen it from other play. I mean, there's other teams that have also said that, or cities have said that, and I don't think it is. I think that's also loser energy. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I'm just saying that is something that's out there that baseball. I'm curious to see how they react to that, because you really can't have 4 7-game series in baseball, because you'll be playing till Thanksgiving. They're gonna be playing for a longer time. I don't know if that's a benefit for the league overall. So it's one of those things where it's like it is what it is.
You kidding me? These owners love more games, more cash, and more money, more cash in the pockets.
Well, but then what they're going to do is they're going to try to make games at neutral sites with warm climates so that they can do that. And that's going to be another problem.
What they should do is just take games away from the regular season. We don't need 162 games to the playoffs.
That's a great point.
I don't mean to pound the gavel. Can we wrap this up? Because we have to talk about the Sixers too. And I'm going to throw up at some point mid.
That's why I said I don't want to even do this segment. But now here we are 40 minutes later. We can't help ourselves.
Do we?
Let's
have one more question before we wrap it up. Does this change your mindset on what this team is? Because forever, the last 2 years, we've talked about this team being in a big game type team. They've taken out the Braves. They took out the Padres. Bryce has always shined in the big moments. Zach Wheeler shined. Schwarber, who was also fantastic in the series, to be honest with you, has stepped up in the big moments. And now for the second straight year, they kind of fizzled out at the end. The same thing happened in the Astros series. I know it was the World Series, but they went up 2-1, had all the momentum, and then they got no hit, and they just fizzled.
But listen, you got to give – and I've told this to you so many times. We've got to give credit to these teams for what they do. We're not just the ones playing ourselves.
That's how we opened it.
You have I talked about the Cody Ross, which is from the Giants in 2010. What happened to that team? 2010, the Giants went on and won the World Series. 2011, the Cardinals beat us in that Game 5. They went on to win the World Series, right? So this team right now may go on to win the World Series. We're running into buzzsaws. And a lot of that has nothing to do with us as much as it has to do with the success that the other team and the mojo the other team has. So we're not just the only team playing in this equation. There's other teams playing, and Arizona was also hot. Arizona was a mirror of the Phillies last year, and they did the exact same thing we did, and now we'll see if they can close the deal. But we also played last year in 2022 a hot Astros team in the World Series. They got it done. Arizona could get it done too this year.
Here's what I'll tell you. This team better be what we think they are. And what I think they are is a World Series contending team for the next whatever years. And they better be because they have all these guys locked up.
Yes.
They have all these guys locked up forever. Bryce Harper and Trey Turner, they're going to be around for another 10 years, 11 years. But there's a lot of other pieces on this team that are going to be around for at least 2 to 3 years. Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, Taijuan Walker, Jose Alvarado, Sir Anthony Dominguez. You guys ain't going anywhere.
I don't know about Walker.
I just mean contracts. I'm not talking about.
Well, yeah, but if I was him, I'd be a little bit pissed off.
Well,
he got a little bit disrespected this playoffs.
He was caught today on Twitter liking tweets criticizing Thompson never using him.
Yeah, he was disrespected. They brought him in for a $72 million deal over 4 years and didn't even want to use him in a playoff situation. And it wasn't like he was terrible all year. He had games where he was really good. Now, did he have times where he wasn't?
He fizzled.
But but still, dude, you bring a guy in for a decent contract and that amount of years, you got to use, or you would think that you'd want to use them.
Well, I respect the fact that they picked Sanchez because Sanchez deserved to start over him.
He did. He was good. But I can understand where Walker be frustrated, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get the frustration, but at the end of the day, you got to perform. I think we still can have belief in this team. I like to think this was a blip on the radar and the bats just went cold.
Yeah, I agree. I 100%.
All right, so that'll wrap it up.
We want to add real quick. I want to add the disappointments. The Carolina Eagles 03 NFC Championship was probably the most disappointing for me personally.
I had that on my list as well. That was a tough one. I'm going to give you guys 2 seconds. Chris, you mentioned a text message I sent you earlier that you were a little peeved about. Do you want to talk about it or? Yeah,
because you want a cookie for saying you were right about our team losing, basically.
Yeah, dude.
And I had a serious problem with that because, in my opinion, if you're going to be a supportive fan, all me and Al were doing in that situation was saying that we believe in our team. And then for you to basically be like, see this, you shouldn't have believed in them because I was right because they were getting cold. Like, so what? We all lost.
My issue with the text was you guys just wrote me off. Let me just read through it for our listeners quickly.
Why wouldn't we have?
Yeah,
why wouldn't we at the time?
Why don't you say, hey, it was a good observation. You were right in that moment.
But you did it for one game.
Let me read it for the
Benedict Seltzer, Diversa, Benedict Seltzer.
Yeah, dude. What do you want us to do? Yep, we're going to screw it up, and we're up 2-0.
This was after Game 3 when we had lost 2-1. I said, am I wrong to be a little worried about the lineup? Bowman Stott haven't hit all postseason, and Castellanos' swing looks long as fuck right now. And then you put yes, you're wrong to be worried. I'll put my level of concern as a 3 out of 10. Everyone else is hitting. Guess said they've had a historic pace. You're panicking on one game. And all I said was, okay, we'll see.
If you did that right now.
I saw that the lineup had gone cold. I saw it.
But so what? So what? We were up 2-1 still. That team had given us no reason to think that this would happen at that point in time. So that to me is like, you're taking more pride in what you thought instead of taking disdain in the fact that we lost the series.
No,
that to me pissed me off.
The beef isn't with you sending the text originally. That's fine. The beef was the timing on you sending the screenshot to remind us that you had said it right after they just lost Game 7. I was sick. Like, I was sitting in my living room in the dark with nothing on, just sitting there. You should have said it just on the pod tonight.
Listen, I said to you guys also today when I resent it, I thought it would make me feel better, and then I cried a little inside.
Exactly, but that's even more maddening because you thought it would make you feel better that you put your own team down.
Fuck them.
Well,
You didn't want to put them down after last night.
That's my problem. That's my problem with you. Is you flip in a New York minute on something.
I'm
with
passionate.
these teams. Yeah, but you can.
I'm still in on the Phillies.
Nobody more passionate than I
I'm in
am.
on the Phillies. I just think they let us down. I'm still in on this group. I don't think they're a bad group. They got cold at the right. Al, how many times have you been on the golf course and been hitting the ball solid, and then you have that one bad swing, right?
That's all I was thinking of too with this series. Is like you can get lost quick. And
and baseball and golf, it works the same way, dude. You hit that one bad shot, and then you're just searching for that good swing again. You can't find it.
Yeah, but you still gotta also have faith in yourself. You can't just sit there and be like, "Oh, I suck. I'm gonna."
Whether I have faith in the Phillies or not has zero reflection on what happens on the baseball field.
But Seltzer, what you did was like if you said to me on like the second hole, like, dude, your putter looks a little wobbly. It looks like you're like pulling your putts a little bit. And then on the 18th, like I have a putt to win like a member guest tournament, and I pull the putt, and you go, "Yo, remember I told you on the second hole."
Right. You're literally putting salt in wounds.
Listen,
let me tell. No, you listen. You're an asshole.
Mute him.
You're an asshole.
Cut his mic, damn it. Cut his mic.
Hey, Seltz. That was a great observation in Game 3. You really have a good eye for
turn on these guys. You turn on these guys in a second, and you'll do the same thing Thursday night when we lose the game in Milwaukee. You'll be the first one to turn on whoever else on the court.
Oh, well, I can't wait to get into that. So let's wrap this segment up so we can get to segment 2. But before we do, we have to give our Saxers locks of the week. So Al, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, listen, Saxers doesn't just do Phillies game specials. Now that the season is over, head on down to Saxers at 148 Saxer Avenue in beauteous Springfield, PA. They're going to be doing some great specials, I'm sure. I've talked to Ryan to see what they got going. You'll catch me over there drinking my sorrows away. So make sure you say what's up to me, and we'll have a drink together. Tell Ryan that the podcast sent you. That's Saxers, 148 Saxer Ave.
I need a drink after dealing with this asshole.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Chris. Give us your lock of the week. Again, we still can't get a 3-0 week.
I don't even curse on this show, and this is what you're making me do.
I don't even remember.
Did we go 0-3 last week?
Who'd you guys have? I lost mine.
I lost mine.
I don't even remember what I had.
You had the Packers guest, and I had the Rams. I think they both lost outright, didn't they?
Yeah.
0-3.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what about the rest of the picks that we had?
Yeah, no, Chris. You don't follow it on Twitter. I post it every week. The records. You have the best record. I have the worst.
That's what no, I do. That's what I'm saying. Like we've been doing good picks. It's just that the best bets at least.
You have. I haven't.
The what did we call it last week? The bail bites.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Or bait bites, not the bail bites. The bait
bug bites.
Chris, going into last week, you were 17-13. Al was 14-16. I was 12-18 going into last week.
Now, see, I have one bad beat this week, and you'll say I'm a dope.
Listen,
never should have followed them.
We all had outright losers. I had Tampa Bay as the favorite last week, and they lost as well.
Yikes. All right, so this week I'm going to start us off. I'm going to go with the Chiefs -7 against Denver. Denver blows, and I might be tempted to bet against Denver every week the rest of the season. Honestly, I don't care. I know they're 2-3. They've won a couple games, but that team they find ways to make everybody look like crap that they play. Like they bring the worst out of everybody. But I still say the Chiefs are good. Mahomes and Kelsey are good enough, especially if old girl goes to the game, because Kelsey balls out of his mind when she's there, and also Mahomes kisses his ass and guns the ball to him all the time. Also, when that situation plays out, so Kansas City -7.
Diversa said so. Slam Denver +7. I can't disagree. Slam all the opposites. Fade all of us. Guest, I'm taking the Bills -8.5 this Thursday or tomorrow night or tonight if you're listening to the audio podcast. So make sure you get that bet in. They're at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
They might be down already in this game.
They might be. Actually, I hope withdraw your best, gentlemen. Cash out. Listen, Tampa Bay is coming off a tough home division loss that they choked up against Atlanta. The Bills are coming off a terrible loss to the Patriots. They're going to be out for blood. It's a short turnaround for the Bucs to go all the way to Buffalo and play in the cold. Give me the Bills -8.5. They should rock Tampa Bay.
All right, I'm going to jump on the Dallas Cowboys, laying the 6.5 at home.
Any bets on Dallas?
Against the Rams.
You're a scumbag.
The Rams losing a little steam. They've lost 2 out of the last 3. I got the Cowboys coming off a bye week. I think the Cowboys stomp on the Rams, especially the Rams are really struggling in the running game. They've lost a few running backs as well. So give me the Cowboys -6.5. I think they win the game by 10+.
I actually love the Rams +6.5 in that game. I think the Rams went outright that game.
Outright. All
So
right.
we're going head-to-head on that one.
Before we jump into segment 2, Al, you want to talk a little about Warlords?
Yeah, so listen, I all of a sudden got put in the position to push the beard oil. So listen, if you go to warlordbeardoil.com, place an order, you're going to use the promo code OCSN15. It gets you 15% off. Guest, I don't know about you. I had to shave it a little bit. I was getting a little long, a little thick. You look like you still got a little bit going there despite the playoff run.
Yeah, I cleaned it up a little bit, but the chin strap's still there.
Yep, and Diversa is a notorious beard wearer. So Diversa, head on over to warlordbeardoil.com, OCSN15. Get 15% off of your order.
All right, it's time to jump into the Philadelphia 76ers, who open the season tomorrow against the Milwaukee Bucks. Before we do, let's start the segment on a positive note. The new Ben Simmons tonight, guys. 4 points, 10 boards, 9 assists. Seems like the same old Ben Simmons to me.
Who said anything about him being a new
everybody? Hoop Central on Twitter.
Because they're all New York biased and they think that they're going to be the ones that change. He's the bad boyfriend that the girls think they can change, and he's the same zebra with the same stripes.
Yeah, he's such trash. But all right, let's get into the Sixers. We had some very differing opinions last week when we did our Eastern Conference rankings, but we'd be remiss if we did not start the conversation around Harden. So James Harden obviously has requested a trade. We've discussed that multiple times. He's been in and out of training camp. He obviously left last week to handle a personal matter, which now has been reported that his mother is ill. If she is really ill, I apologize, but I have a hard time believing that is the case. He returns today, and the Sixers basically tell him that he's going to stay in Philadelphia and ramp up until he gets himself in shape. And then apparently he shows up to the airplane anyway.
Good for him.
And the Sixers tell him that he has to go back home.
He's smart. You know why? Because now he's flipping the script to make the Sixers the villain.
Yep.
This is how what Ben did. Same thing.
All in the game.
How many games? Let's start with James Harden. How many games does James Harden suit up for the Philadelphia 76ers this season?
Zero. This is either you can look at this as a game of chicken, or you can look at this as both James Harden and Daryl Morey and whoever's running the Sixers organization and making these decisions. They're both the kid who's throwing a temper tantrum because they don't want to eat what their parents cook for dinner, and they're sitting there and they're yelling and they're screaming and they're crying. I don't want that. I don't want that. And then eventually there comes a breaking point because you think to yourself, damn, I'm getting kind of hungry. Like, do I stop this mess and just eat the dinner? And I think both of them are willing to go to bed hungry. I think both sides of the table are willing to go to bed hungry. And I don't think they're playing any games. I don't see James Harden suiting up for any games for the Sixers this season.
Well, here's the thing that scares me the most about this is James Harden, Daryl Morey is sitting in the ivory tower right now. And all he's thinking about is how he handled the Ben Simmons situation, where he waited and waited and waited and eventually got what he was looking for in a star player, and James Harden, who has turned into what he is. But at the time, it was conceived to be a great move. The difference between this is two different things. First of all, Ben Simmons was more than happy to pack his bags, go over to London or wherever the hell he went, and stay out of the way and not bother anybody on this team until something got done. That's point one. James Harden is not going to do that because James Harden wants his money to be paid. Second of all, you could still sell 20 teams at that point in time on Ben Simmons. You could sell rebuilding teams on the fact that this guy can still be X, Y, or Z. He's all defense. James Harden, you can't do it. It's either a championship team that has to rebuild themselves around him, and no rebuilding team that wants him and all the drama that comes with him. So the market for James Harden is not going to be what the market for Ben Simmons was, and the market for Ben Simmons wasn't that great at the time. So again, I think Daryl Morey is sitting here and he's saying, I got this handled. We'll take care of it. Everything's going to be fine. And it's going to be fine. This is going to get ugly, and it's going to be a major distraction because this guy's going to be around the team.
I think that the one difference, though, is Ben, we had to figure out a way to trade him. We don't have to figure out a way to trade Harden. We can let him sit and rot and go the free agency in this summer and get his money, because whoever we get with that money, it's going to be just as good as a trade. So I don't think that I think the Sixers have all the leverage in this. I don't think Harden has any leverage. That's why he's trying to pull the annex that he's pulling right now, because he doesn't have leverage. His agent knows, or not his agent, he doesn't have an agent. His managing team knows it. He knows it. And that's where I think the difference is.
I couldn't disagree more with that. What is the Sixers' plan then? Are they going to just suspend him for what?
They're doing the same thing that teams have. I mean, there's been teams that, like, for instance, the Rockets sat Wall the 1 year, and he said afterwards he was fully healthy and could have played, and the Rockets chose to sit him. They can do that. It's the NBA doesn't.
Okay, but the problem is, at that point, the downstream effect is you have a star in Joel Embiid who's going to say, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we not playing this guy? He's the best chance for us to win. And if he's sitting here saying he wants to play, why are we not playing him? John Wall was not playing because that team was in a complete tank mood. You're assuming
the Sixers are not going to be as strong. What if they come out the gate 6-1? You think Embiid cares what Harden's doing?
I think if this James Harden is sitting on the bench and the Sixers just aren't playing him, and James Harden has voiced that he wants to play, then yeah, Joel Embiid's going to be upset about that, because it doesn't matter if they're 6-1. They're trying to win a championship, and they're not good enough to do it with the roster they have now without James Harden.
Then let Joel be upset, because you know what? I've wanted him to play in the playoffs for the last 5 years, and he hasn't done it. So let him be upset.
I understand that part, but I'm talking from the organizational standpoint. That's not what they want. I would have traded Joel this offseason. That's me, but
there's there's the smoke that's coming with different outlets about that situation also with Embiid.
They're not going to trade Joel Embiid.
I'm just saying that things are starting to, from multiple people now, starting to come up with the Knicks and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that plays out. But for Harden, look, man, this whole team is a drag. Let's just be honest. It's a drag.
You picked them second in the East last week.
But right now it's a drag. Right now, as it is with Harden's situation, the fact that their opener for the season is on a Sunday, like I'm going to be down there. It's a Sunday night. That's a drag. The home opener, I should say. Playing the Bucks with Dame, that's a drag for the first game of the year. Like, there's not really a lot of positivity at this second with that team. But I will say we did cut Montrez.
Yeah.
That was a positive. And I hope he gets his stuff together with his knee and all that kind of stuff. I don't wish that on anybody, but we didn't need him on our team.
Oh my God.
So I will say that was one positive.
We don't have a lot going for us this season.
I mean, that's what we're celebrating, that we cut Montrezl Harrell. That's where we're at.
This team is dusty. We talked about a couple teams last week in our preview. We talked about the Chicagos and the Torontos of the world. Guys, we're right there with them. The only difference that we have is we have Joel Embiid. But it's the same story, just a different book.
We're better. Season-wise, I disagree with that. If you want to have a good season and just watch the team win games and have some fun moments, I think we're in a different echelon than the Bulls and all that. But when it comes to the playoff time,
no, I'm talking about the musty factor. Like we've been trying out the same garbage now for 4 or 5 seasons. I know the pieces around Embiid have changed, but you just know what you're getting from this. I will say I feel like this season's a little bit, again, right now. I could be talking a different tune in 2 weeks if they start out hot. But right now, it feels like there's not really a lot of things to look forward to for this season. But I will say I do have hope after this year, because we're going to obviously we want to have Harden, so we're going to have some money. We're going to have a situation where the rubber is going to meet the road, I think, with Embiid. And we could have a new dawn of this organization, maybe even a new GM and president if the season goes awry. If the management has balls, the ownership, I should say. So there's things that we could be looking to. I mentioned this before to you guys, how, especially the season ticket holder, it was so much more fun going down to the games when we had that up-and-coming team.
even more so than it is like now where we have a championship caliber team, because we knew that team. We didn't know what the ceiling was yet. We know what this team's ceiling is as it stands, and that kind of puts a little bit of a damper on it. So again, you want to have a good regular season. You want to win some games, have a couple highlights, see if Embiid can be MVP, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to like winning time at the end of the year in the playoffs, we pretty much know how the script is going to be written.
Chris, what I don't trust with this organization is there's winning basketball games and there's making money. And it was not that long ago. It was less than a decade ago where this team intentionally lost games, intentionally turned fans off from the product and lost money in the process because of the process. And now I don't think that they're far enough removed, the organization, to say, hey, let's start over and let's go through a few years where we're not going to sell games out. We're not going to sell the season ticket packages the way we are right now. We're not going to be one of the most profitable teams in the league. I don't think they're ready to do that yet. I think they're going to ride this thing out to the bitter end because, let's face it, Joel Embiid puts butts in seats.
For now.
But it's going to be at least for now. Next season, the next season, he'll continue more so than an RJ Barrett and whatever the hell else the Knicks wanted to give us.
Listen, that offer that Pompey put out there, if you're rebuilding, that ain't a bad offer.
From a basketball standpoint, I like that. But again,
if you that team's a 5 or 6 seed forever. Randall, Barrett, Maxey. Where are you going with that group?
Well, but you got 3 first-round picks too, though.
I think you can get more for Joel, but
I'm not saying you can't, but I'm just saying that would be a bad offer. I don't think
you eventually can flip that stuff. You can flip those picks and players for better picks.
I want to dive a little deeper into the roster. So I put here in regards to the rotation. The starting 5 seems to be with Maxey or with Harden not playing. You're going to see Maxey, Melton, Tucker, Harris, Embiid. Everybody on the same page there?
Yeah.
I think the 2 locks to come off the bench are Kelly Oubre and Paul Reed. Paul Reed seems to have locked up the backup center spot. Maybe
speaking of which, he's the same guy. We heard all this about all the summer with him too. He's the same dude.
Yeah, stop getting mystified by the summer workout videos at the Y.
No, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm not doing that. I'm saying he's the same guy. He's not any better. Like they tried to make it like he was going to be better because he got with Nick Nurse and all summer stuff. He's the same dude.
He was more aggressive offensively in the preseason.
Yeah, but nobody's buying that flat ass jumper that he was showing off.
Yeah, man. He looks like a dude playing jail ball. Like, stop.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that Pat Beverly has a spot in the rotation.
He's got to be back the point guard.
Yeah. He played well in the preseason, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too. And so my question is,
I'm always team Beverly.
Tomorrow night, I'm not saying who do you want. Who is the 9th man in the rotation tomorrow night? Who's the first guy in? Is Danny Green get in the game first, or does Jaden Springer get in the game first tomorrow night?
Springer, absolutely.
It better be Springer.
And both of them
have a game against the Bucks. I don't know.
Both of them have looked good. Danny's looked like that year off give him a little bit of an extra boost. I'm not saying that he's going to be a world beater by any means, but he'll still be a nice piece for us again this year.
I'm excited to see Jaden Springer play.
It might not be Springer right away, but it will be Springer.
I agree in time. Tomorrow night is what I'm wondering. But I think you throw the kid right into the fire. I don't see any reason why. Defensively, he's tremendous. He's probably the best on-ball defensive player that we've had since, I don't want to say Ben Simmons, but probably
here we go. Here we go.
What? I know you've been a Springer guy.
I've been saying this from day one, and you're like, he can't play.
Well, his offensive game is still has question marks. We have to admit that the defensive potential has never been a question. It's whether or not his offensive game holds form, and it's looked good in the preseason. I'm with you there, Chris. I'm excited to see him play. You've been bullish on him the whole time. I'm tip my cap to you in that regard. But we've seen Isaiah Joe have big preseasons and then come out and not be able to throw the ball in the ocean for this team.
For us, but as a pro, he's been good.
Yeah, but everybody who leaves is good.
Yeah, once they get out of here, they figure it out.
Yes, just make sure you send us the screenshot of the receipt after Jaden Springer's first 20-point game this season.
Oh, I got it. Don't worry.
You guys are really, really held up about that one, huh?
You know what I'm waiting for? I'm looking forward to the exodus of Furkan Korkmaz finally. I mean, can we let this go?
Korkmaz is looking forward to that.
Just holding hostage. Philly's not a cheap city to live in either. He's probably like, I'm paying all these city wage taxes and shit. Get me out of here.
Yeah, he wants out.
Is there anything you're excited about for this season?
Yes. Potentially, perhaps, maybe, if they're not doing well and there's injuries and this, that, and the other. And I'm saying I'm not hoping for injuries. Potentially getting to go to some games without having to spend an arm and a leg.
I was going to say, actually, it's economical for me too. I've saved a couple $100 by moving up 2 rows.
Yep. That's what I'm most excited about. And I'm not even like bullshitting. Like, I'm dead serious. Jackson loves going to Sixers games. And when they're a, supposedly a title contender, it ain't cheap.
Listen, this isn't going to be a popular take, I'm sure, but right after we got back into the swing of, or trying to get the swing of things after the pandemic, and the first game that we went to was against the Knicks when it was like 20% capacity, whatever it was. Dude, that was the most chill time. We had literally 2 rows and about 12 seats to our left, right, front, and back. It was awesome. Now, I'm not saying I want to go back to that because of the circumstances and what it meant. But at the same time, I will say from the experience of being there, like when it wasn't crowded and having to be like, get out of the way, this and that, like it wasn't the worst thing in the world.
And you were probably in and out of that parking lot. And like,
we were home in no time. No lines in the concessions for food, for the bathrooms. Everybody was masked up. We didn't have to worry about getting sick.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, man.
There is one on the court thing I am excited. I've always been a Nick Nurse guy. So I'm excited to see a different type of offense that they're talking about as far as pushing the ball. I'm excited to see a little different sort of defensive schemes that they've put in place, more aggressiveness as far as, and that's been evident in the preseason that they've played that way. Now, whether or not Joel Embiid can run up and down the floor at that pace for the extended period of time they're asking him to, that remains to be seen. But I am excited to see a little bit different style of play than it was under Doc Rivers. And these players have not been shy about throwing Doc under the bus the entire
preseason. And nor should they. He's a scumbag.
Doc took a shot at Harden again today in the interview. Did you see this? What he said about Harden?
Yeah, he said that he was easier, or he was worse to handle than Ben Simmons.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he said that he said that he was more frustrating to handle than Ben was.
Wow,
that's a shot. It's all about a shot.
Yeah, I heard he was how honest we had a really honest relationship, and that's probably why I'm out of a job. I heard Doc said that.
The truth is, man to man, Doc's probably a cool dude to get a beer with. He's probably a guy that would tell you where all the bodies are buried at. But I don't want him running my team.
Doc never did anything wrong. The
opposite. I think if you got a beer with him, he's going to talk about himself the whole time.
Probably. You're probably right.
I don't want to be anywhere near that man.
That's true.
All right, let's get final predictions. Let me get a win total for your Sixers. The over-under was 47.5. I don't want just an over or under. I want an actual number of wins that you'd have this team getting this year.
Well, it's been a while since the Sixers have had less than 50 wins. It's been since the 1920 season. That's not counting the COVID season when they had 49 and then the season ended. It's been since 16-17 since they had less than 47 wins, which the over-under is 47.5. So with that said, though, this line's razor thin. Like, I could see it going either way. I'm going to say they end up with 47 wins on the dot. So we're just under if you're a betting man, but 47 wins on the dot because I think this team is an injury away or a locker room spat away from things going potentially awry. And I think that there probably is a little more that has to go into things going really well for them. So at its peak with full health, yes, this team is still top 3 in the East. I just think that this team is clearly on the decline. So give me 47 wins.
Chris?
Yeah, so with Harden not playing and if Embiid did get hurt, I know we're talking about ifs, but it could be substantially lower, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to still say they're going to win their 50 games, and the script is going to be what it's been being because you have a guy that's a top 5 player in the league, so you're going to win games. So I got 50 and 32, and then the script will write itself and has written itself for the playoffs this year, probably the same as it's been the last however many, 6 years it's been now? I don't know, whatever it's been. It's exhausting. I don't know. Just have I'm starting to feel like let's just enjoy October to April, and then the Phillies will be back, and then we don't have to worry about it. I used to be the opposite, but now that's where I've come a 180 on it at this point.
Fair enough. I'm a little more pessimistic than you guys. I have them at 44-38, which I think I had them at the 6th seed last year. And I think there is potential, as Chris, you kind of mentioned shyly there. I think there's potential that the bottom falls out. And that would obviously start with a Joel injury. But the other thing that I don't think we're taking into consideration is this. There's a lot of expiring contracts on this roster. I think the only guys under roster for next year under contract are Embiid as well as Springer and Tucker.
But Maxey will be here.
Maxey will be here. I'm not saying he won't be.
Yeah. But you're right, technically.
But what could happen is if Joel goes out for an extended period of time, say it's 6 weeks in January and they're fluctuating, you got a lot of guys who are going to be playing for contracts. And that could mean a lot of bad shots and a lot of guys trying to put up numbers that don't necessarily need to be taking shots. I'm talking Kelly Oubre. I'm talking Tobias. I'm talking DeAnthony Melton. Even Tyrese. He's going to be on the team because he's restricted, but he's going to be looking to up that paycheck. So I think if this team kind of is fluttering, I think you could see a lot of selfish behavior as we kind of get into February and March and April, and that could lead to some L's as we get down the stretch of the season.
Yeah, I mean it's very possible. I just think that I don't know. I still just see them doing what they always do. I think they'll be a solid team. We'll have some fun. We'll have a few weeks where we're like the Sixers look hot. Maybe this will be the time, and then they'll go on a losing streak and we'll bash everybody and just go back and forth like we always do. I'm sure you'll save this tape, so if that does happen, you'll rub it in our face that you were right that the Sixers got.
Who's gonna play the Shake Milton role in the game where like Maxey and Embiid are both out and we go and we beat like Milwaukee in Milwaukee? I mean, it's got to be Oubre, right?
Yeah, I think Oubre's the only guy who has the firepower, unless it's Cork. Like those are the only two guys that have the firepower to get 20.
I was going to say, well, Shake did that 39-point that game in LA that time.
Yeah, that was right before COVID.
Can't do that.
I got to check. Let me check a Shake Milton box score tonight.
That team is in the freaking. I don't even think about those guys.
It's so weird because with Minnesota, like Cat and Gobert are like such downers, but man, I love Ant.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, Ant's a star. Although he didn't play well tonight. Not a good game for Shake either. 4-3-4 for Shake tonight.
Simmons numbers.
Yeah, a little bit.
The Nets lost, I'm assuming?
Who the Nets lost? They lost by 1.
Yeah, they put up like 120 points and Ben had 4.
Cam Thomas 36 though.
Dude, he's awful. I don't care what if you watch him play, he is such a me first player.
Yeah.
And he's not even good enough to be that.
He does get buckets, but he's a gunner.
But he shoots a ton.
Yeah, but he might as well on that team. Who's going to shoot?
Yeah, but I'm saying he can't be you can't have him on a winning team.
Yes, you should love a guy like that.
No, dude, don't be disrespectful. Don't be disrespectful. I wouldn't do no. I wouldn't be shooting like that.
They need to know.
And also, I had no arsenal. You knew where I was shooting from. I had no arsenal. I'm not dribble driving and all. I'm not doing all that.
I do want to also shout out. I've been posting my player prop of the night. Follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. You see the thing there at 3K Podcast on X and at 3K_podcast on Instagram. So make sure you're following. 1-1 now. Hit tonight. LeBron let me down last night, but I did hit tonight with Jalen Brunson's under.
You don't have to call it X. No one's calling it X.
I didn't even know what that was when you said that. I thought it was an X to hit to close it out.
I gotta replace that logo. Put the Twitter logo back up there.
All right, but we're gonna jump into segment 3. We're gonna keep it nice and short. We're just gonna do our NBA season predictions. Just kind of, we figured it'd been an emotional night with everything that we were getting into, so we'll keep it short and sweet. But before we do, I want to tell you about Fanatics. Click the link in our description. I'm going to post this link underneath our podcast episode, so you want to click that and go and shop for your latest sports apparel needs. We mentioned for a while you needed all that new Phillies gear. Well, guess what? You can burn it now. So now you need to get the new Sixers gear. They came out with the new city uniforms. I'm not a huge fan, but some people might.
They dropped the ball again with the city editions.
But I don't know. I don't know if it was one of you who said it, but somebody said, and I agree. They have to drop the brotherly love thing. Like the people in Philadelphia are not like we're not Nobody's out here being like brotherly love. Like
I said that. I said you can tell the designer's not actually from Philly.
It's about the identity of the team and the lead to the league. I don't think they care as much about the locals. But should they? Probably. But I don't think that
jersey would have looked so nice if it just said Sixers or had 76ers. It would have been so nice.
Or if it had Philly with that Reading Terminal font.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think brotherly love is the Sixers hashtag as well.
It is.
Yes.
It is. It's their whole branding thing for the NBA. Yeah.
Right. So that's where it comes to. But listen, if you like the jersey, you're looking for something fresh, click the link below. You'll get a nice deal on Fanatics. Use the promo code and get yourself a nice little, maybe a Jaden Springer jersey.
Now, let me ask you a question, because with these jerseys for the NBA, you watch a game now and you don't know what shirt they're going to have on. Back in the day when we were younger, it was like, the road jerseys and the home jerseys. Now they have the home, the road, the city, the collect, the this, that, the throwback. So, like, do these city edition jerseys, like, are they like the old video games? Like, if you try to resell Madden a year later and it's worth like $10, are these like if you have the old Philadelphia jersey with the Boathouse Row on it, that one a few years back, like, is that like trash now? Or like the one that had the Spectrum?
The Spectrum jersey you can wear. The Spectrum jersey was fire.
Yeah, the Boathouse Row one, you could have. That was trash as soon as you bought it. That jersey sucked.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I thought it was a unique jersey.
That one is crazy nice.
The Spectrum was awesome.
That one's going to withstand the test of time. The red City of Brotherly Love is dog shit. It's all dog shit. The City of shit. Move on.
I like the cursive one. The red
MVP I have. DPOY I have.
Drop that beat.
All right, let's get into segment 3. We're going to give our NBA Finals predictions as well as our award predictions. Let's start. I didn't say conference finals, but if we can do conference finals, and then we'll do the NBA Finals. I can start. I'm going to go chalk in the East. I really don't see any other route coming without any major injuries. I got Milwaukee and Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I actually got Milwaukee upsetting Boston, who disappoints their fans again. I think Milwaukee's going to probably need to upgrade somewhere defensively in the backcourt before the end of the year. But assuming that they do that, I think Giannis may be on a mission to get to another ring. So I'm taking the Bucks to come out of the East. And then in the West, I'm also going to go chalk, and I'm going to go Denver, Phoenix. Even though I had Denver as the 4 seed last week, I think that lineup has such good chemistry, and Jokic is the best player in the league, and there's no question about it. And I have Denver getting back to the finals against Milwaukee, and I'm going to take the Bucks to win the title this year.
Seltzer, we have almost the same picks. I also have Milwaukee over Boston. I don't have that as an upset, though. I have Milwaukee as my 1 seed in the East, and then I have Phoenix and Denver, and I have Phoenix beating the Denver Nuggets. I think last season they were the only team to win 2 games in a series in the playoffs against them. I think it's just too much firepower adding Bradley Beal. They'll probably make a move along the way at some point to get some bench help. And then I have Phoenix taking out Milwaukee in the NBA Finals. So I have the Suns as my NBA champs.
I'm gonna also say Milwaukee versus Denver, and I think that I'm gonna go with Denver repeating, and it's gonna be to the point where we're gonna all look at each other and say, "Oh my God, Nikola Jokic might have to be considered one of the best players to ever play the NBA."
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
We've been wrong about a lot of stuff on this podcast, but when we trashed Jokic, that was one of our worst takes ever.
Part of that was just our Philly, you know what I mean? Our passion.
Yeah,
we had to defend our boy.
I know.
And we admitted that when we were wrong and we realized it, we said it. There's a lot of guys out there and women out there too who talk about sports who just ride their slant the whole time and don't change it, even though it's clearly wrong. So I take pride in how we do it.
All right, let's go to the awards.
A pot of integrity, guest.
Yeah, that's what we're about. We're in a pot of integrity. Exactly, Al.
Let's start with Coach of the Year. Al, who do you have as the Coach of the Year?
So my pick for Coach of the Year is Adrian Griffin. I think that he has the chops to coach a team to an NBA title. He's a player's coach. He was instrumental in the Raptors winning their championship in 2019. and he gets the head coaching job with Milwaukee, the same place that he started as an assistant way back in 2008. So I think Adrian Griffin, if he gets the Bucks to a 1 seed, if they're like a 65-win team or something like that, and I just don't see, like last year, it was obviously Mike Brown because Sacramento came out of the doldrums to winning their division and getting a 3 seed in the playoffs. I just don't see a team that's going to make that much movement from a bottom top type of move, other than maybe that Canadian dude in Oklahoma City. So I'm taking Adrian Griffin.
Okay, Chris.
I'm taking Malone from Denver. But by the way, before I go into that, I wanted to kind of go with what Al was saying. So I said a few weeks last week, I think it was, about Toronto, how I think they're going to struggle, and at that point, I think they're going to be trading some guys. I want to coin the phrase right now, the Toronto Rapture, because I think that these guys are going to be ghosts by the end of the year. A lot of these guys. So when you hear that on ESPN or something like that, let me know, and I'm lawyering up. It's time stamped. It's time stamped where we're recording right now.
I'll clip it and put it on Instagram.
Clip it and put it right up there. I'll see you in court. All right. So Malone, for me, look, last year I was big on the Nuggets preseason with a lot of rewards. I'm going to probably be similar here this year too. Plus, I got a plus 900 to win it. Look, that team they're really good, and they know how to play well together. And that's huge in basketball, the chemistry factor, not just on the court, but also being comfortable with your coach and what the philosophy is for your team and the structure. So I'm going to go with Malone for my coach of the year.
All right. I think coach of the year, we talked about this with the NFL a little bit, generally comes from teams that have overachieved. We saw that last year in Sacramento. Somebody, Al, I think you mentioned Mike Brown winning it last year from a team that had lower expectations came up. Obviously, I'm bullish on Orlando, so I'm riding that train. I'm going Jamal Mosley as my coach of the year. I didn't see Chris. Where did you see odds? I couldn't find any odds on coach of the year.
Yeah, they had it. There was a couple of different sites. I got it off of there was this site lineups.com, and they have a bunch of different awards and then what the odds are across the board for different sites.
I got to imagine Mosley's at least 25-1. So I'm taking Jamal Mosley, and that's not the end of my Orlando Magics on this ride.
That's your favorite team.
No doubt. 20-point win tonight. Easy win. 1-0.
Scumbag.
Just for the bettors, I had Griffin at plus 700. That's what he was listed as.
All right, let's go to sixth man of the year. I'll start.
Hold on. Are we gonna? I thought you said you wanted to have the value picks too.
Okay, I mean Mosley's my value pick as well in that situation because he's going to be 25-1. Go ahead, give me your value guy as well.
No, real quick, I was just saying I was throwing out Taylor Jenkins at plus 1,400 and Bickerstaff at plus 1,600. If they play well without Ja, I think that Jenkins could be in consideration. And if the Cavs meet their potential with that young team, Bickerstaff could be right there too. So I think those two guys could be in the conversation at the end of the year too.
Great minds guest. I have JB Bickerstaff as my value pick also. I think if Cleveland somehow can steal a 2 seed, that it's a lock. And if maybe even if they get a 3 seed, he might get it.
And we know the East is up in the air.
Yep.
Certainly. Those are good calls. All right, let's go to sixth man of the year. I'll open up on this one. I was shocked. I was looking on FanDuel, and there were 3 or 4 guys they had at the top of the sixth man of the year that I think are going to start. So they had Chris Paul 17-1. They had Derek White 23-1. Drew Holiday was on it. They took him off today. They must have taken him off since then. Drew Holiday was on sixth man of the year vote. So I'm not taking any of those guys because I think they're going to be starters. I'm going to go with the guy who's third on the list. I mentioned last week when we did the preview, or 2 weeks ago when we did the West, that I thought Sacramento was a little bit stale offensively. And I think that Malik Monk is going to have a big year if they want to meet expectations. He's a guy who fills that kind of sixth man of the year where you're looking for that volume scorer, that Jamal Crawford, that Lou Williams type. So let me get Malik Monk at 13-1 to go sixth man of the year.
I have the same pick.
Me too. The next 3 of us.
3 for 3.
I will say I did find, interestingly enough, on Caesar Sportsbook, they have Maxey at 30-1 as sixth man of the year. I thought that was interesting.
Now, see, those bets should be null and void once the guy is obviously not the sixth man. Last year in this segment, I took Tyler Hero and he started. So that bet was out the window from day one.
But they're the only one that has him on the book for that award. So that's interesting.
They're just looking for idiots, I guess, like me.
Probably just they're either brilliant or they're dopes, one or the other.
My value pick for this though was Russell Westbrook. He was plus 5,000. And he's just a guy that he can come out there with that DGAF attitude and just, you know what I mean, try to put up triple doubles from the sixth man spot just to give the finger to the league, which he loves to do.
I think he's starting though, until they get Harden. Or if they get Harden,
well, there's the idiot. There's the idiot taking that bet, like we just talked
about. My dark horse, I have Eric Gordon as my dark horse. We mentioned Phoenix's depth; they don't have much. I know Gordon is an older guy; he doesn't have a ton left in the tank. But at 35-1, I think he's in a spot where he's going to at least be playing 25 to 30 minutes every single night on a pretty good team. So if he can put together half a decent season, it may be worth something at 35-1.
I had Derek White for $6 million a year for a value 23-1.
I think he's going to start too. He started tonight at least.
So if he could, or they could go back and forth with him and Drew. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but if he is a 6-man or comes off the bench, I think there's good value there. But I don't want to with the Celtics, so go to the next one.
All right, fair enough. Let's go to most improved player. Let's start with you, Chris, on this one. So we'll go right back to you.
I got two of my boys on this one. So here's my prediction is Jordan Poole at plus 1,200. I think he's going to be put up superstar numbers on that team. I think he has the potential for it. He is a little bit of a poor man, Steph Curry, but I think that he has the potential to average like upwards of 25 points a game this year. With that roster. Do you want me to give you my value also? Or Anthony Simons at plus 1,700. Love Simons. I'm driving the Simons train. Been driving it for a while. With Dame not there anymore, opens up the door for him to have a little bit more burn on that team. And he can score, man. He's not going to give you a lot defensively. He's not going to give you much other stats other than scoring, but he can fill it up.
All right, those are two good picks. Poole's going to get a ton of shots. In Washington, so we'll see what kind of numbers he puts up in that situation. Al,
listen, I had to take a Sixer, so I went ahead and took Tyrese Maxey as my most.
That's a good pick, still.
He's plus 1,100. He's getting a lot of buzz for this award this season. With James Harden out, what Max have like 3.5 assists last year? That number has to come up if he's going to be their point guard. His scoring has gone up every season since he's been in the league.
12 assists the other night.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's a 3-point threat. We all know that. One of the best 3-point shooters in the league at this point. So I'll take Maxey as my pick at 11-1. And then my dark horse, I saw Desmond Bane down there at 31-1 plus.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, he's going to have Ja's not going to be there for 25 games. His scoring has gone through the roof over the last 3 seasons. He can fill it up from all over the court. So if he's the primary scorer on that Memphis team, I could see him averaging 27, 28 points a game until Ja makes his way back into the lineup. I like him a lot. I like Desmond Bane a whole lot. I think he's almost like a smaller Jason Tatum type. So I like Desmond Bane as the dark horse pick.
All right.
And remember, Memphis got Smart this year too. People forgetting about that.
Yep. To give him the ball.
I don't want to get any shit for these picks. I do believe this. This is not a shtick, okay? I'm going back to Orlando. I'm taking Franz Wagner at 24-1. I think the guy has potential to average 22 to 24 points a game per season.
What?
I like Franz. I think he's got game, dude. And I think I'm very bullish on him and Paulo.
24 points a game, Franz Wagner?
I think he could do that. I don't know if he can do it this year, but I think long term he has that ability. So I got him at 24-1. And you want me to go even deeper? I got my dark horse is that Markelle Fultz at 65-1 as a starting point guard in Orlando. So what do you think about that?
I took him the last 2 years, Seltzer. Didn't I tell you guys this? He was like 100-1 before he tore his ACL. And he was still in the bucket that season.
I hated what he did to the Sixers. And I've watched his game grow, and I just love his game. Like, even though he's still not really got the 3-point shot down, he's so strong and he can get to the rim, and he's so underrated. Not underrated. He's like sneaky athletic, where he's just like moving slow, and then he just explodes on somebody for a dunk.
He's a grinder. He's got that old man game in him.
He's a good player. Again, I don't think he hits.
No, but you just said it right there. He's a good player. He was drafted to be a great player.
Right,
yeah.
Absolutely.
He
got something went wrong with him.
At this point, you got to change the expectations.
But that trade for Orlando was a win. What do they give up? A second round pick and Jonathan Simmons? Something along those lines?
Absolutely.
All right, so those are my most improved guys.
I hope you clip that Wagner part and send it to him so we can send you a signed
19 tonight for Franz.
I'm gonna clip that noise that you made after he said it.
Me?
when we get the soundboard up and running. I can't even do it.
I didn't even know I did
it. All right, 3 more to go. Defensive Player of the Year. Let's start with Al on this one.
Yeah, I didn't put much thought into this. Jaren Jackson Jr. is 5-1. He's my pick. He's got to defend the paint now. Those Steven Adams this season, so they need somebody down there. And then my value pick is it's Bam at 12-1. He just feels like he's a guy that's going to end his career with one of these. But I think Embiid was hovering around like 25-30-1, and I wouldn't mind that either. But I'll take
enough defense.
I'll take Jaren Jackson.
Chris.
Oh man, well, if there's anything that I know about in basketball, it's defense. So I will say, I thought you'd get a laugh out of that. Victor Wembanyama.
I knew you were going to do this.
Victor Wembanyama is going to be an elite defensive player in this league. He already is. I've been preaching about it from day one with him. At 12-1, listen, man, I'm laying it. I have no problem with it.
Laying an egg.
I also like that Walker Kessler at 22-1 as a value pick. He's actually carved out a nice little role for himself as a defensive player in this league. And if they have any sort of, run where they can, like last year, where they kind of exceeded expectations and played a little, they punched above their weight a little bit. He could be looked at for that award. But Victor, I would almost put that as a lock. That's how confident I am for him as the DPOY this year.
Well, I think if he's going to win DPOY, I think we're going to hear about him later for another award that we'll talk about in a minute. But I also like the Kessler pick. I had him in my fantasy basketball league last year. He was really, really good. I just worry in Utah you can kind of fade into oblivion, especially if
that's right. Yeah,
I didn't even know he was a good defensive player. I thought he was just like a typical white guy shooter.
No, he's big. He's like an around the rim shot blocker.
Yeah.
I got my pick and my dark horse are the same people here, but I'm going to go with another guy that Chris is a huge fan of, and that's Nick Claxton. I think Claxton shows the versatility. Al, you mentioned Bam, like very similar defensive style to that Bam has, but he can protect the rim. He's strong. It's just a matter of what happens in Brooklyn and where he's at on that. And I know he wants to win the award. He's already talked about that, and that's half the battle with some of these things. So he's 25-1. So I think that's big enough to pick and use as my dark horse.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, 2 more. Rookie of the Year. I'll start. Al, you and I, we trashed Wembanyama a little bit early in the season. We had some worries about him. I watched him in the preseason. He's going to win this award.
No, that's another one I was right on. You dopes were trying to tell me he's going to be stiff.
I didn't say he was stiff. I said he had injury concerns. That's all I said.
He's going to get beat up, gassed in the paint. He's like 600. He's like 60 pounds.
In the preseason, he doesn't even go in the paint. He doesn't rebound.
Sitting there made a fool out of Klay Thompson the other night.
Did you see that video of the glitch in 2K when he's like spinning around stuff?
He's spinning around the top of the back.
I'm watching that video every day. It makes me laugh so hard every time.
There's the one video, or there's the one picture in the preseason where he's blocking Wiggins' shot, and Wiggins just looks like he's like 6 foot.
Dude, he's huge. Even by just playing someone faced up at that size, he's going to be blocking shots left and right.
He's disgustingly big, and he's at -145. I'm still taking him to win. And my dark horse, listen, there is no dark horse. It's a 3-horse race. If anybody else wins it outside of Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, or Scoot Henderson, I'd be floored. I would
agree with that. Well, I told you guys. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You never know what's going to happen. I mean, obviously, injuries, blah, blah, blah. But I agree. But if you're talking about a dark horse, I saw Brandon Miller at 42-1. That seems a little excessive for the number 2 pick in the draft. That seems a little high.
Well, that's extreme value right there. Is anything going to get injuries or anything?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like if Wemby goes down for 20-something games and Chet goes down for 20-something games, and now it's just kind of a one-on-one with him and Scoot. I mean, 42-1, that's extreme value. I do I do have Wemby though also as my.
To be fair, don't forget that 65 game rule is in effect now.
Yeah.
So if you don't play 65 games, you're not eligible for the award. So you're right. If they go down for 20 games, all of a sudden you can't win the award.
And listen, these big guys, they're susceptible to that Liz Frank injury. They might get the poor Liz Franks out there.
The old Liz Frank. Yeah, that got Ben his rookie year to Liz Frank.
Exactly.
Yep.
My dark horse for rookie of the year is he had a great preseason. Cam Whitmore at 25-1. You were saying about if anybody can get it outside of those three, be floored. And I would too, but if anybody could do it, I think at 25-1 with that team trying to figure out who their stars are going to be, he's going to get a lot of opportunities to put up some numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I like the player. It's just, again, I just think it's those three guys are well.
Yeah. I mean, I told you guys, Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren are the future of the league.
FanDuel actually has updated, and Whitmore and Miller are both 50-1.
So they've gone down.
Yeah, okay. They have Amen Thompson at 42 above them.
Amen's Detroit or Houston?
Houston.
I watched him play a little bit tonight because they were playing Orlando. He couldn't even dribble a basketball, it semed like. He had those first game jitters. He had first game jitters for sure.
His brother was on Houston, I believe.
I knew one and one. All right, let's go to the granddaddy of them all, and we'll wrap this thing up. The MVP of the league. I'll open it up. It's very hard not to pick Jokic because of the fact that he's the best player in the league, flat out. But I had Denver as kind of fading back a little bit in the regular season this year. I mentioned earlier, I think it's a Giannis rebound year, so I'm going to go with Giannis as MVP. I think Dame's going to open some things up for him. It's just a matter of, again, with this games played threshold, Giannis has shadily taken the Embiid route the last few years as far as taking plenty of games off and being around that low 60 number. So whether or not he wants that MVP, he can get to 68 or 70 games overall. But I think Milwaukee's going to be really good, and I think if Giannis wants to, he could go off for like 33, 12, and 6, that kind of season for him. And listen, for my dark horse, the MVPs are pretty much won by the top 4 or 5 players in the entire league. It's really hard to pick a dark horse. But I'll go Devin Booker just in case that Phoenix team ends up going on an epic run and you have a season where Durant misses 15 games. Bradley Beal is already hurt. He already missed the season opener. I think Devin Booker could take a major step forward. And if I had to pick a dark horse, it's probably him. But realistically, you're looking at Jokic, you're looking at Giannis, you're looking at – I don't think Embiid has a chance to get it after his playoff debacle last year, what everybody said. And, you're looking at those two guys plus, a Luka or somebody like that if they have some sort of magical season.
I agree with you, Seltzer. I have Giannis also as the MVP. But I will say you brought up Lillard. I saw Lillard at 40-1 to win the MVP. Look, man, if that transaction pans out and Dame still plays and it's still Dame time in Milwaukee, that's a really good value. And then also I like AD at 29-1 too.
For him to stay healthy.
AD's that's the issue with him always is the health factor. But if he's healthy, he looks a little bit slimmer this year, a little bit quicker from what I saw last night. He could be someone that could be in that conversation this year.
The issue with Lillard is probably the same issue. Like, remember, again, we've trashed Harden. Harden was really, really good last year. And there was a period of time where it was, I don't want to say he was in the MVP conversation, but it became, he could never get it because Joel was on the team.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I feel that Lillard's going to be, even though Lillard is better than Harden. I just think that if that Milwaukee team has that type of season, it's on the back of Giannis. And as much as you can try and give it to Lillard, it's just you're not going to be able to make the argument statistically. That's how
and that's probably why he's at 40-1.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Adam, you talked about, some of these guys having too much help. I think some of these and you talked about how there's only really a couple favorites. I think some of these favorites have too much help. Like Giannis has too much help now with Dame and Jason Tatum has too much help. I don't think these are guys that can win it. AD and LeBron have each other. KD and Book have each other. They have Bradley Beal now. And then there's some guys that are on teams that just aren't going to win enough games. Luka, Shea Gill, Donovan Mitchell. I think that the NBA is going to try and right the wrong that they know they probably made last year, because even though last year you did have a 3-horse race and you could have given that award to any of the three of Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis, and you would have been correct. I think the league definitely bought into the whole shying away of giving Jokic that award for a third straight season. And if he comes out and he averages damn near a triple-double for a top 3 team in the entire National Basketball Association, he's going to win it. Jokic is going to win it. So I have Jokic as my MVP. My value pick was AD because AD is the kind of guy that if he has a great season, LeBron misses some games, the Lakers wrap up a 3-2 seed, something like that. He can put up the numbers. But realistically, yes, this is Jokic, Giannis, maybe one other guy in the race.
Well,
real talk, I have in the background the basketball game. Grant Williams is kind of locking up Wembanyama.
It's not hard.
Just not hard, he said. Oh, my God.
You
lock him up. You lock him up there.
Grant Williams is locking him up. I don't need to.
Listen, I will say this. I want to thank you both. I didn't going into this conversation tonight. I was not in NBA mode yet. I am now. I'm now ready to go for the basketball season. So this conversation's went a long way for me to get into full NBA mode. And now after this conversation, I'm ready to roll.
Well, just wait until you see Franz Wagner locking up your boy Wembanyama in a few weeks.
Want to know? That's all I gotta say. Listen, they're my number. I can go as a number 2 team. You're allowed to have
loser energy with that because you know that there's no ramifications for 100%. What they do.
I said to my wife, I said tonight, I'm on the Magic bandwagon. I said it feels good to sit here and watch a game with 0 expectations. If they won, it was awesome, and if they lost, it was cool. Like
don't
it was
shy away from the smoke, bro. That's what makes us who we are as Philadelphians.
I'm still rooting for the Sixers. Are my number 1 team. I'll be locked in tomorrow night. I'll be pissed off when they lose by 12. It's like I'm here for it, but let me root for somebody else too.
It's harmless fun, Chris. Let him play with his toys. It's harmless fun.
Yeah.
Everybody had an Orlando Magic jersey when they were a kid.
We want to talk about toys, guys. Here you go. Here you go. Toys.
All right, let's wrap it up.
That's what's on the floor.
Episode 68 is in the books. We will see you next week, and we're going to drop that beat.